Mic check 1 2. Alright, I think we got that going. Alrighty, let's see here. Yeah, been a while. Boy, this is loud. Turn this down some here. Alright, now I can hear myself think. Okay, been a while. Got some more Nintendo Switches to finish up today. Hopefully we'll get this one right here working. We stopped last week just shy of installing the new LCD connector, which I have right here. And we're going to get that done today. We'll just put that on the board, see maybe if I get some life out of the board and see it show an image on the screen. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to move on. I got some other ones I like to fix. I did get one in yesterday that I'm kind of eager to get going because I'm going to be giving that one to a very good friend of mine who traded me a brand new in-box Switch Lite for, he wanted a full-size Switch. So I had one put aside for him. I wasn't very happy with it. I was initially going to do a shell swap and get him a better screen and all this stuff. But then this week I came across one that is like, I mean, this thing is literally brand new out of the box. In fact, when I got it, it was, they kept all the original plastic bits. It came like it looked like straight from the factory. Issue with that one, she was claiming all these Joy-Con issues, but I didn't see those. I did see that one of the buttons on the Joy-Cons wasn't working, which we'll look at. But the big issue was the SD card stopped working. The SD card reader stopped working, rather. So that's either going to be a very easy fix, and that I just swap in a spare SD card reader and it works, or might require some component level repair. I don't really know. I didn't dig into it, but I did take a look at it yesterday, and it sure as shit is 100% functional. The only thing that wasn't working was the SD card and the minus button on one of the Joy-Cons. So we'll have to take a look at that. Hopefully that one will be fast. If I get that going, then I've got a couple of Switch Lites, which I'm kind of disappointed about. I bought a lot of 3. They were supposed to be all broken. 2 were 100% functional and only require me to install some new Joy-Cons. The third, however, showed up with a blue screen of death, which initially made me kind of upset because blue screens are generally not fixable. However, I determined that I think I actually might be able to fix that one. So I set that one aside, and we'll go over it, and I'll show you why I think it might be fixable and how we can fix it. And hopefully we'll get that one up and running. So let's just dive right into this and get this going, because I really don't want to spend too much more time on this board. There is an issue still. I feel like there's still an issue with the the USB port. I would like to probably put a new port on this at some point, but if I can get the LCD connector on and I can get an image up on screen, I'm just going to put this one aside, because I do plan on using a hardware mod with this. That just showed up on Friday, along with a whole host of parts that I've been waiting on for weeks now from China. Hopefully next week I'll get the Wi-Fi chip in for that other Atomic Purple, and we can get that one up and going. And then after that, I'm still waiting on the LED driver from China for the OLED switch. And once that shows up, hopefully we'll have a stream getting the OLED up and running, and then an Xbox Series X. And then hopefully I can put the repairs down for a little while. I do need to start selling some of these consoles and making my money back, but I do have a whole host of actual builds that I would love to get done. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Starting off with building Nintendo from scratch. So we'll dive into that, and hopefully we'll get to those pretty quick, because I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be a nice break from working on broken things and being frustrated with not being able to fix it on stream. So, okay, with all that nonsense being rambled off, let us just dive right into this repair. We're going to pull out a brand new LCD connector here, and let me just move this light up just a little bit. Like that, maybe? Yeah. I'm still working on the lighting here, guys. It's just not my favorite. Forgot the lamp. That should make things a little bit better. Not my favorite. I've got lights all over the place. It's not very comfortable. But we'll have to get it sorted. The workbench itself is pretty cramped, and I want to change that. And I think the really only way for me to change that is to tear the entire bench down and start from scratch. I think I really could use like an extra foot of length on a table, and that would make my workbench a lot more comfortable. I unfortunately just don't have the room or the money for that purchase just right now, so we'll just have to suffer through it like we always do. Anyways, all my connectors are going to go back in their connector home. I now have a new bag, a huge bag actually. This made me so happy to see this come through. Those are got Joy-Cons and USBs, LCD connectors, power connectors. In here I think is also the mod chip for the Switch Lite, which is this right here. That's going to be an interesting install. I never hard modded a Switch before, so it's going to be a new experience. Kind of looking forward to it. Okay, that's it on the board. put those aside now. A little bit of brain juice. Okay. Probably gonna need it. I don't know why I put my iron on. I don't need that just yet. So, we shall turn it off. Do need to soak up that sponge. So I have some wet sponge to work with here. You don't know. I use both a wet and a dry sponge to clean my soldering iron off of. I like both. Some people don't like the wet because it does drop the temperature of your tip a little bit, but I don't know. With the way things heat up these days, it's not a concern I have anymore. Okay, so let's get this in a board holder here. Take a quick look at it on the microscope and just kind of get to work. It's a pretty mundane, routine repair. We're going to pull the old port off, wick off the old solder, and then replace it with fresh leaded solder. We're going to need to... Kind of an awkward spot. That should do it. So I got this in a board holder now. We're gonna just pop you over the microscope here. Do I have an autofocus? I do. Okay, get that going. Probably should make that part of my pre-stream routine here. Okay, so come on. Oh man, my focus area is a little off. Yes. There we go. So we can see here the LCD connector is missing the bail. This is probably one of the more sensitive FPC connectors on the board. It is also one of the shittier ones to remove. Why is it not? Come on, camera. Just because there's a lot of passes around it, but right underneath this sucker is this chip. And this chip is your probably your biggest power management I see in the board, and it's a BGA. And you don't want to go mucking with this guy because it's a pain in the butt to deal with. I have a couple spares, but not many because they're kind of expensive. They're like $6 or $7 a pop. So I tend to be a little gun shy. Usually the most that happens is I might move some of these passes right here into my fingernail. Hopefully that won't happen. Let's see, yes, I knew that was going to happen, huh? I'm going to have to do this the other way. I like using just a little bit of flux. Here. Let's just move this camera back just a little bit like that. Light. It's a little bit better with the light on right now, but should be perfectly fine for what we're going to be doing. Okay. we're going to be moving the connector to the front of the board just because there is no passes in front of it. Let's just kind of wet down. Oop. Melt this flux down a little bit, get it spread out some. Like I said, I really don't care about damaging this connector too much. Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to do this for y'all once it gets back into focus here. Okay. So we just go right underneath the board, like 400, around 420 degrees Celsius. Waiting for those joints to wet up. Perfect. Do a double check here. Does not look like I knocked anything off, which is spectacular. Now the real test is this test. And as you can see, everything in here is very much so intact. So we will move you back to the blue mat here. And we're gonna just, I guess I did keep autofocus on. Well, that worked out. We're gonna go through and clean up this old solder here. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see what tip I got on. That should be just fine for this job. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, I cannot wait to get my soldering iron off the top of that hot air station so I can quit burning my freaking fingers. Okay, well, I got some fresh solder wick here. Trim this because I don't like the way that looks. A little frayed. All right, let's get this cleaned up here. So, if you don't know, this is solder braid, and what solder braid does is it helps suck up solder on the board to clear it off of pads. And what we're going to be doing here is the solder from the factory is unleaded, so it has a higher melting point and it's just generally not as good as the solder I like to use, which is Kester. And I say all this, and you know what? I am going to just put this in a board holder because, you know, it really does kind of make your life easier. Still don't really know how I feel about this board holder. I like it and I don't like it. But when it works really well. So I'm going to put you back on and do this. I'm going to Take a step away for just a second here. God, I did burn the crap out of my thumb. All right. Had to get a little self-promotion done there. Oh, also paying attention to what my turkey boys are doing. Spent all day yesterday. Playing Tarkov, which is why I didn't stream, because I wanted to play Tarkov. Because I am horribly addicted to that game, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. All right, so let's get moving here, and let's clean up all this crappy factory solder. Basically, you just kind of like, you're gonna let the braid do all the work. You heat it up, and then it just kind of glides over the pad. You want to go in the direction of the pad, which in this case is vertical. If you go horizontal, you do run a risk of ripping the pad from the board. If you go vertical or with the trace, that's less of a concern. These are just kind of a slight pain here because of those resistors up top. But you're not, the thing to note here is you're not scrubbing. You just kind of want to let the heat soak in, and then it should just glide over everything nice and smooth. Once you get that glide going, solder will follow. Quick little cleanup here. So I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. This Amtech Flux, I mean, it works great. It does, but I just think it burns very easily. And even though they claim that it's supposed to not do it, it still does. Okay. Alright, so we're going to put some fresh flux on this board. And then I am going to put the connector on. Let's see here. Now, I'm trying to think if I want to preheat this a little. Probably. Preheating the board helps the iron work a little bit easier, but there is a lot of plastic around this area, so it's not the easiest, to be quite honest. Just smear this up and down the pads here. Just get everything to at least touch the flux, eh? The flux helps the solder flow from one point to another. Basically helps bond with the metal a little bit easier. And flux is your friend if you're a solder. If you like to solder things, it's pretty hard to not use a lot of it, even though the Kester solder I used does have a rosin flex core. I still prefer, and as do most people, to actually use additional flux here. Now, as you can see, bridged a couple of those, which is fine. Didn't do the greatest job right here either. Come on, might have to put more flux down. Don't want to have these bridge pads that you see there. Just hitting with a little hot air here to kind of pillowify the pads a little some. I might have to take a couple of those down a notch or two because it's a little too bumpy for my liking, but should be okay. Let's just clean it up and take a better look. Use a little bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol, which, again, if you're really into this hobby, you probably have a literal gallon of sitting somewhere. I have a 2-liter bottle of it, basically, under my kitchen sink. Well worth the 30 or so bucks for it. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, that'll work. That'll all even out some when I heat it from the bottom. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have to redo the board holder again just to get a yeah, see, I was such a dumbass. This is how I had it before, huh? No, that's not how I had it before. Man. I feel like this is the way, honestly. Yeah, that's the way. Okay. So now we grab our handy dandy brand new connector here with the latch facing forward. Just drop it on the board. And we gotta find our pokey jammy. So I think I'm off to the left here. So I need to kind of just wiggle you onto my right. That metal shielding for the hard drive is there we go. All right, so it's still off more than I want. I'm going to switch to my tweezers here. For some reason, my PokeJammy has just been extra sticky lately. Okay, I think I've gone too far. I know you don't really need to do it like this because the surface tension of the solder will eventually, hopefully, it should drag the whole connector into place here. But I think it's like, if you get things set up as perfect as possible, it just makes your life easier all around. So now we're good. I think it's a little canted to the back, maybe, but you know, we'll see what the solder does. If I have to nudge it around, I have to nudge it around. But we're gonna try to flow the solder a little bit to get it kind of tacked into place. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of flux and then reheat again for the final. I'm trying to use less flux around these ports because the flux will absolutely flow on the inside of the port, and then it makes, see how everything wets down just gorgeously there. Okay, let go. Now flux gets in the port, what I was saying is that latch starts to get really stiff and sticky, and they're very delicate, so they will eventually just break on you. So the less flux you get in the port, the better that latch will work, the better the life of the latch and the port in itself. And you don't have to do what I just did. Now again, the backstory in this board is I bought this board only that came with nothing else but the motherboard, and it was just sold as a non-functional for parts only, and both the LCD connector here and the daughter board connector on the other side of the board had the latches ripped off. So I'm guessing somebody tried to do a mod or a home repair or whatever and did not do a good job and ruined those connectors, which, let me tell you, you might be like, huh, how do you screw up a ribbon connector? It's just so easy. And it's not as easy as you might think with these things, I swear. They do tend to kind of break if you look at them wrong. So we're gonna, I want a little bit more flux on that other side. Just a little bit more. It's almost a perfect amount. But just this last little bit right there. Okay, there we go. It's probably a little too much. We'll make it work. We'll just scrub nice and good here. Basically, this solder is hopefully gonna just the flux is hopefully gonna help the solder flow completely over the legs. All right. I mean, I really think that's good. We're gonna let that cool down here, clean it off, and then once I have it cleaned off, we'll do the old solid test with the PokeJammy. and then hopefully we'll get to see something on display, because that's all I'm going for with this board right now. Once I verify we are getting a display, I will set the board aside. We will move on to my other projects for the day. I'll keep this light on because it's easier for me to see the burnt flux. I've been working on this board for the past couple of streams, and oh, that's the other thing that they did to this thing is they screwed up the M92 install. So I guess there was a board level fault at some point that someone felt the need to replace that chip, and well, they screwed it up, and it was not negotiating 15 volts like it should, and I don't think it was throwing any charging amps either, which is another sign that the I2C bus is not good. So quick little reflow of that chip, a new USB-C port, and I got it to show 15 volts in a boot state. So I know the CPU's still good, and I do see charging amps come through, so I know there should not be an error when I boot this. Now I'm just hazarding a guess about that. I don't really know, but there shouldn't be an error. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just scrubbing with the toothbrush. I flooded the board with some IPA. I'm just being very gentle here to not rip that plastic connector off. And now I'm gonna latch it down and keep scrubbing, because we're trying to kind of like anything that flowed in there, if I can force it out with some alcohol, and I'm going to throw some heat on it here in a second, a little like 200 Fahrenheit, like something like 80-90 C or something like that. Not enough to melt the plastic, but enough to boil the alcohol, and that should hopefully flush out any crap here. Yeah, diode looked too good there for a second, did it? I wonder what's up with that. Just some fuzz got on it somehow. Okay, well, let's hit it up with some more alcohol again. Just again, trying to be nice and thorough with this port. I did use more flux than I wanted to, but if it solders on gorgeously, and I got it done in one go with, I never did check the bottom of the board, so well, we'll do that after this and see if I screwed anything up. So just move the latch up and down a couple of times and squeeze out any excess that might be in there. Hit it again with the hot air with the latch open. Hopefully push out any residual flux. And if it's still, if I miss some, you just go back in with some more alcohol later and it's fine. Okay, so pads are looking light on solder, but maybe I'm just crazy here. "99% there, Felchy boy, and yes, your name is much much more recognizable than the Ben Sutter or Sutton. I can't remember now. My memory is terrible. I use 99. The 91 will work in a pinch, but there's still too much water in it for my liking. And 99 is actually really not that much more expensive, so there's almost no reason not to use it. But if you're stuck and you need some extra, and you have to go to the pharmacy or something like that to pick up a bottle, 91 will work in a pinch. I'd stay away from anything below 91, but... Okay, so this is the solid test. I take my Poke Jammy here, and I push on each of these individual legs, and I see if they move. If they move, they're not solid, and they need to get resoldered. Solid, solid, solid. Promise I won't say it for all of them. Still solid. That one has... I think that's fine. Yeah, it's solid. Sometimes they flex a little bit, and you think they're not connected, but if they're not connected, then you should see them wiggle really freely. Like it's very obvious they're not soldered on. So yes, these are nice and solid. And the ground legs are obviously going to be okay. I'm going to turn my station off. Oh, hey, I got lots of people in my chat now. This place is hot. Well, I appreciate it. It's I burned my finger, so it's somewhat hot, but that's because I'm a dumbass. And oh man, oh F. So there's a little, where is it? This little foam pad here, I guess, which kind of just oh, look at that! This whole tray is now loose. It's a metal shielding. What the heck? Lord knows what this guy did to this thing, but this is now no longer glued on because my IPA got underneath it and did its job. Oh well, we'll have to figure that out later, I guess. There is no glue. There is no glue left on that. I'm going to have to go out and buy a glue stick or something at some point. Anyway, so now we got to look at these guys. This one's a pain in the ass because I got to tilt the board and touch legs at the same time. So let's go to autofocus here. Let's just drop my tool on the ground like I'm like to do here. Okay. Let's get a better zoom here. No, I guess I can't leave it in autofocus. I hate that about this camera. Okay, so you can see how that pin's gold and wiggly. I need to hit that with the soldering iron. These are all looking good. This one's a little sus. Nope, just fine. Okay, but see it now, you can see right here, like, you can see how it's wiggling, and you see that the little liquid or the flux is kind of squishing. So that needs, so I'm third from the left there, that needs just a taparoo with the soldering iron. Okay. Frank, I am fixing a Nintendo Switch Lite motherboard. I've just soldered on a brand new LCD connector. Right now I am just doing some cleanup work, a little bit of flux to make this easier. All right. Yes, Felchie, I'm getting back to work. You're a manager now, huh? So is that kicking in for you? The need to manage people? What is what, Felchie? The board or the music? All right, so we said it was the third from the left here, huh? Okay. Looking a little bit better. It's a little blurry, I know, but we'll just do a quick little... There we go. All right, I think we're good there, but I'll clean up and verify. I don't trust my own work ever. Well, Felchie, I mean, if you manage no one, eventually you'll manage someone, so maybe you gotta just practice. Practice on me. I go back and forth on whether or not I want that responsibility in my life, but I am definitely kind of leaning towards the fact that yes, because I'm a little bit bored with my current job responsibilities. Okay, so let's do this real quick. You still don't like shiny thing, you son of a bitch. Come on, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's looking fantastic. Pokey Jamie, do your thing. Yep. No more flex, no more nothing. Looks good. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see here. Now, we're going to do a quick that. I told you, like I said before, I still think there's an issue with this stupid... Oh, that's right. I've got one more repair I've got to execute on this. I forgot. This board had a melted power connector, and that power connector ended up breaking when I unplugged the battery from it. But part of the China package this week was brand new power connectors. So let's get those out. Which are these? Yeah, Frank, we've been through that with our business. Went through a whole restructuring. Now, to be fair, in our business, we were quite bloated in some areas, but we definitely cut way more than we should have, in my opinion. But they're desperate to try to increase revenue by cutting costs, I guess is the way to say it, or increase profits by cutting costs, which I get, but I still think they let go of too many people. It's a fine balance. It really is. Frank, I buy these purposely broken and try to fix them and then resell them. And it's just a hobby. It's something I do for fun because I really enjoy puzzles and fixing things, and I love video games. And so it's kind of like, why not just save video game consoles from going to the landfill. I have done a couple of commission repairs. I don't generally enjoy doing those jobs because I always, it's somebody else's device, and if you screw it up, you're destroying somebody else's equipment, and I'd rather not be the person that does that. So, but I have fixed other people's stuff for them if they ask, and it's a job I think I'm capable of doing. Okay, so let's see here. This is also not a very fun place to solder because of the fuel gauge on the other side of it, but if I remember correctly, I did replace the factory solder with leaded solder, so let's get you into focus here. Should be good. Yeah, you can see how this thing is just shredded. Do have to be careful. There is a very, very tiny and small BGA chip under here, which I've screwed up many times to the point where I've got spares now because of how much I've had to replace it. Thankfully, it's not a very hard job, but again, why replace stuff you shouldn't have to? Alright, so we're pulling this off again, like 440. Came nice and clean. I guess I forgot to turn off good old autofocus there. Kind of feel like I need to add in a little solder, but I tend to sell these for around $110 to $120 there, Frank. I really don't do this for money, but like, as my dad likes to say, your hobby business should fund your hobby, and so that's kind of what this does. I want to make back what I spent on the console, plus the parts that I use, and then if I can buy myself a beer with anything else, that's great. I tend to make around, I don't know, 10 to 20 bucks a console. It's really not much. I have flipped a couple. I've found a couple really good deals that have made me some money, but they're very far and few between. This tip just does not like me. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't clean the leaded solder off of this. Kind of doesn't feel like I did, but let's just I really should be using a different tip for this, but okay. Good enough for government work. Yeah, Frank, I do. Actually, I sell switch lights, regular switches. I'll have a Switch OLED coming up for sale here pretty soon. I have an Xbox Series X that I need to fix, and I haven't determined if I'm going to sell that one or if I want to add it to my collection. There are some of them I do hold on to because I want one, you know. So like I fixed PS4 this summer, which Felchi, I still have yet to download Bloodborne and play it, even though that was the literal reason why I bought it. Lots of retro stuff. I've got a bunch of Game Boys I did some mods on and put some IPS displays in them. And then fixed up a Super Nintendo and a Sega. And those got added into my collection, but, you know, I'll work on anything, really. Anything looks cool. I've even, like, fixed, like, some of those old school, like, LED games, like the old football game and baseball and whatnot. And anything that takes power and uses circuitry and looks like an interesting job, I'll work on. All right, so back to the task at hand again with 420 degrees Celsius air. I'm just going to heat from the bottom here. This should all just kind of suck down in the position here in just a second. There you go. I love that. That's so satisfying. Very easy job. Very easy. Okay, so that should be... Yeah, it's fine. I don't even really know. I'll look at it, but I really shouldn't need to do a solid test on that one, honestly. Oh, did I not? Did I have that on the wrong board view? God dang it. Yeah, so basically, you heat from the bottom of the board because when you're using hot air to solder stuff, you're not like applying, you know, you're not melting the solder directly. You're letting the board itself heat up to the level that will melt the solder. So right here, I have a plastic connector, and the USB port has plastic in it. So heating from the top right up here, and especially because this port itself is plastic, if I heated from the top, then all this would melt. So if I heat from the bottom, it'll liquefy the solder and bond to the port, and then I just pull everything away, and then it cools down, and you're left with a freshly soldered port. And as for the hobby stuff, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you know, but I flew drones, so that's how I met all you guys. I flew drones too. But I quickly realized that I enjoyed building the things more than I enjoyed flying. I love flying them, but building them was where I got my enjoyment. And then I stopped soldering for a couple years, and last summer I kind of like just realized that I needed something to exercise my brain some. A hobby that wasn't video games, but I still found a hobby that revolved around video games, and invested some money in some better equipment, and here we are. It's just fun. I love watching these things come back to life. It's just so satisfying. Yeah, it's right now the hot air station I have is a Yihua 959D. I do have an Atten station that's sitting in a box right now that I've been meaning to set up. Yeah, we have. I live in Arkansas, and we have a. You know, you would think we'd have more places to fly, but not really. And it's always like, you know, 40-minute drive to get somewhere, and then every time you do fly, you're breaking stuff, and so it's like you go out and come out with 6 drones, and then you come back with one working one, and $300 repair bill, and just got old really quick. And then the drone scene itself, like I just kind of, it got really cringy, and I just did not really enjoy the types of people that were starting to fly and make bigger names for themselves, and didn't really want to associate with that. So I just moved on. But I met a lot of really cool people that I still call friends, so it did have some positives. All right, so we just kind of scrubbed off any excess flux there, just to keep that from getting into port. Lightsaber thing. What, are you buying lightsabers and learn how to like do sword tricks or something, or just take a quick look under the microscope here? Yeah, those look good to me. And there's really not too much that you have to worry about now. I do have to flip this over. So, looking at this guy right here. And that guy is our fuel gauge, and he is a very small, I think it's a 3x3 VGA. But yeah, we look good. So you can see each of those individual balls. That's a sign that they haven't really been disturbed. Okay. Let's clean this IPA off real quick. Any residual alcohol off the board here. Okay, do this. Oh, that's cool. So you modify the lightsabers then. That's really freaking cool. Yeah, I will admit I have really looked at a couple of them in the past, thinking it'd be kind of a neat little wall decoration. I always stop myself from buying it. At at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't need more crap like that. But it's very cool. I'll probably end up buying one at some point. But okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna run a very quick basic test. Okay, that port's perfect. So this is a USB ammeter, and what we're expecting to see here is 15 volts and 0.48 charging amp, and then we want the meter to flick off and then back on again. What that indicates is the board itself has booted, because that's what these switches and switch lights do. Is they basically, like, once they verify that all of the ICs in the board that need to be there are there, you get the signal to boot, and it goes to the second boot logo, and that's where you'll see this meter flick on and off. So if I could see that, then I know that this board should be booting to the software. So let's plug it in. Now I do have a problem with this port. Okay, there's a 4 and a reset back to 4, 8, 5. Okay, perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a booting board now. Okay, I'll take a look at that, because that might be an interesting project to do in the future. I'm always looking for kind of like, neat things that aren't consoles, but it's kind of actually hard to find that, or it's hard to find stuff that's reasonably priced, because a lot of people on eBay, they'll sell the broken stuff for essentially the same cost as something that's perfectly functional. So it's a little annoying, honestly. So I'm always looking for, like, neat projects that, you know, I can bring back to life, or even just modify or work on, or anything I can basically touch with a soldering iron. All right, so what I'm doing is I've got a test shell right here, and I got a board in it right now. Those atomic purples that I was working on a couple of weeks ago, which I'm still kind of waiting on parts for. And so we're going to pull this board out. Oh, this is a little sticky, huh? Okay, got you. Got you. One more here. Do I have you screwed in anywhere? I don't think I do. That's odd. I thought I removed the power already. Now, if I remember right, this board is absolutely functional. The sister board, oh, that's right. I had to put the new daughter connector on that one. And then her sister board has a broken Wi-Fi chip, which I'm waiting on. And then I can button those two up and add them to my for sale pile. Yeah, you know, it's tough. You gotta really pay attention to the eBay market, and I'll give a lot of kudos to the eBay guys, because they're very good with the market, and they know what their items are worth. And right now, the stuff that I'm doing is real popular on YouTube, so a lot of people are doing what I'm doing and buying broken stuff to make videos with, and that drives the cost of this up. So you kind of start to get a feel of like the average cost of an item after a while. So like these switches and these switch lights, like I tend to try to not spend more than $70 on them, because you got to pay for tax. In a lot of cases, you got to pay for shipping. So you don't want to go too much north of like $80, $85, because then once you add on the cost of the parts you got to replace it with, and then add in your beer money, you're starting to need your profit. So like, you know, some of these chips are like $3 or $4 a piece. Like this connector right here is $3 a pop. This one right here that I just put on is $2 a pop. So that's a $5 repair right there. So if I spend $90 on this board, $95 for the cost, you know, then I only get to make $15. Whereas if I spent $60 on this board and then $10 for the parts, then, you know, I'm making like 40 or $50 for the profit. It's all relative, but you'll pick up on things that are just absolutely not worth it. Okay, so let's see here. I like to just kind of anchor the board down slightly. Do a single screw in the USB port here. All right, we're gonna start. Now this is the LCD. Like I said, this this port is very sensitive, but that slid in nice and easy. Latch went down good. Okay, and this right here is the digitizer. This is what controls. This is the touch input, so to speak. This is the chip that controls that. The switch and the switch light air gap the digitizer and the LCD, which is quite nice. It makes it very easy to work on, and you can replace them individually. Okay, so now this is the bear. This connector right here hates me. I've broken this connector more times than I like to admit. That is nice and smooth though. Same thing, just gotta line up, and these cables should slide in with a slight resistance. Like you should kind of, because you should feel the thing bite into the port, but it shouldn't. You shouldn't have to force anything. It should just take very little effort to slide it in. I usually enjoy doing this one under a microscope, but okay. If you notice, I do all this with the power off. The reason I do that with the battery unplugged is this right here is the backlight circuit, and this produces up to 17 volts. And you don't want 17 volts to go where 17 volts shouldn't go, so it's better just to hook everything up, and then once you're satisfied that you got things going, then you plug the battery in. Now, again, don't press down on the battery connector with the ribbon cable, because this thing is very fragile and this thing is bumpy and sharp, and it will damage the traces. So just press down on the connector itself with a pair of tweezers. It'll snap in place quite easily. Okay. So let's see if this worked. I don't know what's going to happen here, but we'll see if it works. Hey folks, that is a Nintendo logo. That is a second Switch logo. I think we're getting close to getting the home screen here. There's the home screen. Look at that. It's working. All right. Well, that's kind of as far as I wanted to get with this particular board today. I still have some more work to do on it, like this USB port. It's kind of hard to see, but I've got to take a Dremel and shave off like a millimeter worth of metal here, because these ports are intended to work on the Nintendo Switch, and the Switch Lite is actually slightly smaller. So you got to kind of do some manual work to get rid of that. But I'm not going to really bother testing much else out. I just wanted to see that it was still working, and it is. So that is a success, folks. This was a $35 purchase, completely non-functional when I bought it. I replaced the M92 T36, or rather resoldered it. I replaced the daughter board FPC connector. I replaced the power connector. I replaced the LCD connector. I can't remember. I think that's all I had to do with it. Once I got all that up and running, she booted just fine. So she went from not negotiating 15 volts with 0 charging amps to a fully booting and functional board. I am quite happy with the result there. So we can now finally set this one aside, and then when I get some time, I will install the hardware mod on it. And probably going to stuff it into this shell, honestly. And put it up for sale. So if someone wants to buy a modded Switch Lite, should have one for sale here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, $50 does go quick on fancy beer. Used to live those days, my friend. I don't drink. I had my first beer in about 3 years on New Year's Eve. I went out with my buddy to get a steak, and got myself a Yuengling because I'm from Philly and Yuengling is my jam. But for a long time, I used to love a nice craft beer, especially an IPA. Loved IPAs, and I would spend $12 a beer, easy. So yes, $50 does go very fast on fancy beer. Let's see here. Mess with the Joy-Cons and the female connections with the little door that comes down, freaks me the hell out. Yeah, so what I like to tell people is, with everything in life, and I'm sure you're very familiar, don't force anything. I mean, things are very, very rarely meant to be forced. Everything should snap down or fold down smoothly. If you find yourself having to really wang on something to pull it out or push it down, then you probably screwed something up somewhere. You're missing a step. So just take a step back and do it. Now, what I do suggest is if you could find yourself these little plastic tools here, they work really well to open the latches and close the latches versus your fingernails. And I prefer using plastic tools to work with the FPC connectors. Oh yeah, Vader. Yeah, okay, yeah. The hardware mod, it allows me to run custom firmware. So basically, if people wanted to like run emulators or non-Nintendo software like Linux or Android, it'll let you sideload that. I think generally what people tend to do with modded Switches is they run pirated games, which I'm going to say I don't really support or suggest you do, because if you run pirated games, especially online, you have a very good chance you're going to get your console banned. But hey, I can't say that I'm not guilty of downloading pirated software. But that's generally what people do, is they just run custom firmware to either run their own emulators or pirated games or whatever. They just want more control over their system, which I'm all for, because I firmly believe I spent $200 on this device. Why the hell can't I do what I want with it, as long as it's not illegal or causing harm to people? I will do the mod, and I will sell modded systems, but I will not help someone pirate games or give them instructions on how to do that. That's what the internet's for. And if I taught myself how to do it, you can too. But I've actually never done a hardware mod. I've bought some of the original, very, very early versions of the Switches. You were able to use little tricks to hack the system. They're called unpatched switches, and they don't require you to solder on hardware to hack them. You can just basically you short them out in a very specific way, and then use a piece of software in your computer to inject custom software into the Switch. Yeah, I mean, I've got several RetroPie arcade systems that are very neat. They work really well. A lot of times, I'll push people if people just want to do or have emulators and stuff. Then I kind of push people towards that, because the hardware modded systems and soft modded systems they add a bunch of hurdles, and they're not as easy to use as like a RetroPie system. What the heck is the name of that? There's a new console out. I can't remember the name of it, and it's really, really cool. Handheld portable that runs. What the heck is the name of it? That's gonna drive me nuts now. I'm gonna have to look it up. Hold on a second here. Doc noticed that I changed my frayed and broken USB cable to a bridge cable. Funny thing is, Doc, that freaking thing, that frayed cable is absolutely fine. I think it was the USB-C port that broke on me last time. If you're even in here, I'm reading my Discord right now. Try to find this message, because I want to figure out the name of this console. What is it called? Oh boy, it's gonna drive me nuts. It is called, I think I just found it. Come on, Instagram, load for me. Are you still charging, or are you not charging anymore? No, you're not charging. God damn it. Boo, boo, boo. Oh, heck no. Come on. Analog Pocket. Thank you. That's the name of the system. Analog Pocket. If you have a chance to look that up, it's a really neat little system. Good luck getting one, but it's a very neat system. Steam Deck's amazing. If you have the money for a Steam Deck, and you do a lot of like mobile portable gaming and you want to play PC type games, I absolutely think the Steam Deck is for you. The Switch is great in its own right, but you're just kind of locked into their ecosystem, and the Steam Deck is just freaking, it's just amazing. It's just very, very expensive. I mean, you're spending almost as much as a full-blown console, and you're only getting a handheld, so it's a tough pill to swallow, but very, very cool. And I do like the fact that they did make it user repairable, and they offer parts for it. You can upgrade it. So if I bought it with like, a 250 gigabyte SSD, and then I wanted to put in my own terabyte SSD, you can do that. That's, to me, that's just all these cool little things that make that really worth it. But the Analog Pocket is like, it's more of like a retro type system, but you can play a little bit more modern stuff on it. The Craig thing puts you off. I think isn't that a different, that's a different system I think you're thinking of. I think I know what you're talking about, though. I saw that on Linus Tech Tips one day. A very, very neat idea with that, but yeah, not for me either. And it's just one of those things that I think is cool, but it's not for me. And yeah, for getting the console banned, well, if you hack the system, the easiest way to avoid getting the console banned is to not play pirated games. And if you are going to play pirated games, put the console in airplane mode. And if you put it in airplane mode, it can't connect to the Nintendo servers, so it won't recognize the fact that you're playing on a hacked system. So, my suggestions anyway. Okay. So this game, basically, retail system, and I already cheated on you guys, and I did open it up and play with it some, so I do know what the problems are. But you can see here, literally everything's still in the frickin' plastic. Oh, that's right. The other thing with this, besides the SD card not working and the minus button on the one Joy-Con not working, now she claims that it doesn't dock anymore. I didn't get a chance to test it out, so I do have known working docks. I will test it out in a known working dock, and if the known working dock allows the image to come through, then I know that the problem is most likely within the dock itself, which would be fun because I've never actually worked on those before. Otherwise, it's most likely related to the P13 USB chip, or is it PI3? I can't remember now. And I have plenty of those on hand. So. You too, Vader Man. Have a good day. Enjoy your haircut. I am in the same boat and need to get one as well. So I hope it turns out good for you, bud. Thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate you. All right, so Nintendo Switches and their famous Tri-Wing screws. We've got. This is for the. I'm gonna bag you up. I took apart a couple of those Switch lights that came in earlier because I get impatient, and when I get my shinies in, I want to dig into them right away. And so I pre-diagnose them too, because I don't know if that's something that y'all want to see, or if you would rather just watch the repairs. I don't know. All right, plenty of screws lying around. So let's get this over. So we got Tri-Wing screws. Oh, that's stiff, which is usually a good sign. If it's stiff, it tends to mean that someone's not been in here. I am noticing that the screw that goes right below the SD card is missing, which always makes me a little nervous when I see missing screws. But that thing is so tiny and so short that it doesn't really surprise me to see it missing that often. All right, one left. Okay. Then we switch over to a Phillips head here. We got 2 screws on the bottom. And that's exactly why I do it over the mat, because they're not very magnetic and they do tend to drop pretty easy. And we do have 1 screw up top. I do suggest trying to be careful with these because everything's plastic, so the screw posts tend to strip. Now you got to take out the middle Phillips head here and the Joy-Con rails to free up the back plate on both sides. Don't need more than that, just the middle one. There's 5 screws, so go 2 up or 2 down, and that's where you need to be. Now again, be very careful and try not to strip the head here like I almost just did, because you don't want to have to Dremel these out, which I've done, and it's not fun. All right, so I'm curious here. We still have the screw. Things just look a little dusty. Oh, I did notice that the fan was kind of chunky. I might replace this with a new fan. It did sound kind of grindy. So that either means the bearing's going on it, or maybe it's just got some dust. I'll clean it and take a listen to it and see what happens. Okay, so let's pull out this this Phillips head right here. I was kind of maybe hoping that this had just kind of came undone, but it's not looking like that's the case here. Oh, it is the case. So literally the only reason this SD card was not reading was because it had become unplugged. No, I'm looking, just doing a quick little visual inspection. The port itself looks fine. Let's just put this under the microscope and just double check things here. I'll zoom you out some. Turn this off because everything's so shiny. Yeah, that looks that looks fine. Honestly, that looks brilliant. So let's just now, I didn't get the greatest deal on this. I paid just around like $160. And I normally sell the full bundle with the dock and the charger and all that stuff for about $175. This one, however, like I had mentioned before, is going to one of my best friends down here. He and his brothers grew up playing Mario Kart, and I just gotta check this port out real quick. That looks fine. That one pin looked a little suspect, but I think it's just shadow. Yeah, it's fine. So him and his brothers grew up playing Mario Kart, and they recently just realized that the newer versions of Mario Kart are online capable, and so they all decided to get Switches to start playing weekly Mario Kart matches. Now, my friend's brother ordered a Switch Lite from Amazon, and then Amazon somehow lost the package and shipped him another one. And if you can see where this is going, his original Switch did end up showing up. And so he gave that Switch Lite to my friend. But my friend, after playing around with it and getting my advice on it, realized that he would rather be able to play this on his TV. And unfortunately, with the Switch Lites, there is no HDMI out. It's a console-only tablet. So you're forced to play it as a handheld. You know what? I'm going to do this the hard way. And he didn't want that. He wanted to sit on his couch and play it on his TV, blah, 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 blah. And so I offered to trade him 1-to-1. You give me that brand new Switch Lite, and then I will give you a full-size Switch system. And since this dude is such a really good friend of mine, I really wanted to give him something special, and I had some nicer stuff that I was going to get to him, and the one that I originally planned to fix and build for him, when I put it together, I just wasn't happy with the cosmetic condition of it, and so I was planning on swapping that into a much nicer shell that I had. And then I was doing some browsing on eBay last week, and I saw this come up. And she originally wanted $175 plus $15 to ship it, plus eBay tax, which is ridiculous. Okay, that snapped in quite nicely. And so I offered her $125, because that would kind of keep things below $150 for me, which means that, you know, I'll be a little bit better off. And she came back with $130 was her counter offer. And part of me was like, you're kind of like just trying to eke out a couple extra bucks here, aren't you? But I couldn't say no to it. You know, for $5 wasn't enough for me to skunk a deal on. And even though it did raise the overall cost of the unit to something that was a little outside of my comfort range, I figured even, you know, if all else equal, I could still sell the whole bundle and still make $10 or $15 on it. But what I'm going to have to do is now sell the Switch Lite for $160, which I'm hoping I can do, because it's brand new, literally brand new. I don't think, besides him taking it out of the box and powering it on, I don't think it's ever been used. So hopefully, if I can get the $160, then it evens out the cost for this. And this thing, let me tell you, folks, is like, it's hard to show on camera, but it's pristine. Like, it's never left the bedroom. So it comes with a box. It's got brand new everything. It just felt like such a nice system to give him, and he's such a good friend of mine that I wanted to do something like this for him. So hopefully that's all that was just a freaking the SD card reader became slightly unplugged. So let's fire her up here and see what we get. So there's our first Nintendo logo. There's our Switch logo. I mean, I tested it. All this boots. It all works. Everything's fine. Yeah. It was just this SD card. Now, when I plug this in, it should pop up with a message saying it's not from this system and wants me to format it. And if it does that, then I know it's working. Well, folks, one of the easiest fixes in existence. I literally just had to plug the SD card reader back in. That was the only thing that was wrong with this. This is why I kind of love eBay, because, boy, let me tell you, I spent more than I was really kind of willing to spend on it, but, and I'm looking at this now. This is also an unpatched system, so I mean, I'm giving my friend a hell of a deal, because I can sell unpatched tablets for $175 on their own, easy, if not $200. In fact, I sold the bundle this Christmas to a guy for $275, and it was just a Switch, 2 Joy-Cons, a game, and a loaded SD card, and an unpatched system. And that was probably one of my biggest flips, because I paid $100 for the thing, so I made almost $200 on it, which was really nice. And that's kind of what got me my new soldering iron, or my new hot air station, I should say. So this is fixed. Well, almost fixed. We're gonna, I forgot, we need to just get this back plate back on, so that I'm gonna clean this off, do a little cleaning, a little spring cleaning here. Okay, so then dusty as shit, eh? So let's squeeze a little alcohol onto you. Oh, that's right. I got to add in a kickstand. It's missing the kickstand, but I've got replacements for that. They're like $1 or $2 a piece. Bunch of scratches on the inside of this. Is weird. I wonder if somebody did take it apart at one point. I don't know. Backplates, it shows normal wear and tear. Nothing like crazy bad. You can tell it's been taken out of dock more than once or twice, and definitely been used as a handheld, but all of it is intact. No broken tabs. Game card reader's fine. Just a little dusty. Little dusty roads. Excuse me. All right, let's get you back on, and then we're going to start doing some dock testing. Okay. I like to start with the Joy-Con rails first, because they kind of lock the plate into a pretty even position. And they're also highly magnetic, so they're a lot easier to pick up. I don't know why they don't make the other black case screws magnetic. They might have the reasons for it, but they're a pain in the butt to deal with. At least the very tiny ones. The tri-wings are easy, because you can basically place them by hand and lie the console flat. These little tiny guys are such a pain to deal with, man, let me tell you. Yeah, I always end up just struggle busting with them for a little second or two. Alright, so there goes that. Got one more on the other side here. Last bit up top. Okay, good. You don't want to crank down too hard in those because you'll strip out that plastic screw post in the back, and you'll lose the screw in a heartbeat. And yeah, as soon as you feel it go fingerish tight, you're good. Okay, there's one. I always follow a crisscross pattern just because that's how I was taught when mating two surfaces together. I don't know how important that is with plastic bits, but for metal it's generally what you want to do. Again, you don't need to wang things down nice and just finger tight. Once you get some good resistance, you are good to go. Now, unfortunately for him, he will be missing his SD card screw right there. It serves very little purpose, just a little bit, I guess a little bit of extra tensile strength, but the console seals up quite nicely without it, so I don't have to worry about it. Does it post? What do you mean, does it post there, Felchi? Can you explain that statement? Are you asking me if it boots? I don't know, dude. Why don't you tell me? I would say that it posts. Okay, so this controller, the minus button wasn't working on it, so that's going to be kind of interesting to tear apart and figure out what's going on. But she was claiming that the system no longer wanted to dock. So we're going to pull out my portable LCD here and see if we can get it docked. Now I've got known working docks as well. So what we'll do is we'll test this dock first, and then if this doesn't work, we'll pull out a known working dock and see if it works on that. And that'll tell me if the problem lies in the dock or if the problem lies in the console. Which means I probably shouldn't have buttoned the console up yet, but we'll see how... We'll see if that comes back and bites me in the butt, huh? Alright, so I don't need my light. One of the other things I did buy was a really nice, massive power strip that I've also yet to get hooked up. I'm looking forward to getting that hooked up. Alright, just so we can see the screen. Nintendo dock has a place for me to plug in power and HDMI, so we're going to hook that up. Okay, we got that. And my HDMI. Okay, so it's kind of hard for you to see. There's the dock. So we're going to expect this to, you can't see, there's a green light on the side. It should, well, she wasn't kidding. I think it's the dock though. Well, it's a black screen now. Okay. No. So I'm tempted to say it's the dock. Pull this off. I'll try one more time here. I mean, I'm getting the green light, so it's... Yeah, black screen, huh? Yeah. Well, let's grab a known working dock here. Use my personal Switch dock. I actually do own a Switch system for myself, and I would be lying if I told you it was for anything else besides Zelda. But this thing has been used for maybe like, I don't know, 100 hours because all I did was play Zelda on it. Beat Breath of the Wild and then called it a day. Okay, so I'm hoping it's just a dock. If not, then I definitely have to pull it apart again and take a look at Pi. Okay, well, we're hooked back in. Let's see what happens. Please be the dock. It's the dock. It is the dock. Very cool. Okay, okay. So I've got a problem with the actual dock itself. But you can see it's working just fine. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any charged Joy-Cons. Just verifying real quick, the minus button's still not working on this. Yeah, see them. Okay, so the minus button's not working on this. Okay. So we're going to set the tablet aside. We do know, for now, the dock is non-functional in terms of HDMI output, which is this guy. So we're just going to unplug you and put you back with my Switch so I don't get you confused with everything else. And then we're going to pull off that monitor. I don't think I'm going to have the parts I need to fix the dock. I will try at some point. I will probably just give my friend a working dock out of my collection of working docks and just add that to the pile of stuff I need to repair. Excuse me. But hey, you know, at least something was really broken on this thing, at the very least. Wasn't the console, though. And that just kind of goes to show you with your eBay purchases, this is not the first time where I've got something that someone said was completely broken, and it really absolutely was not completely broken. And so you end up getting really good deals on things. Like those Switch lights I picked up, that lot of 3 for $207. 2 of them were completely functional out of the box, and the third was a blue screen. So even if I couldn't fix the third, I could still sell the 2, make all of my money back plus a little a little bit of profit, and I would have had a wonderful set of spare parts to use with the broken one. But it turns out that the broken one is also potentially fixable. So now my profit went really through the roof. And I also thought that if the blue screen wasn't fixable, that board that you watched me fix at the beginning of the stream could have gone into that shell, and I still would have made a profit on it, and still ended up with a really nice parts board as well. So it was a win-win, and you never really know what you're going to get, and sometimes you get something really good. So I will be right back. I'm going to take a slight break, and I will catch you back in a couple minutes here. Check 1 2. Double check and actually make sure you can hear me. I think you can, but you never know. Okay, yeah, I'm good. You know what they say? Don't buy your liquids, you only rent them. Coffee especially. Speaking of coffee, I need mine. Okay, so let's tear this thing apart here and see if we can't figure out why exactly the minus button is not working. So these things are actually very simple, and if you are looking to get into repair, this is a great job to start with, is fixing Joy-Con drift and putting a new set of gimbals in. Now, when I originally bought this, the person who sold this said that there's a lot of Joy-Con drift, and when I tested, there was zero. These controllers were 100% functional, except for the freaking minus key. And I have no idea why that's not working. And they use these tiny little, like, I don't even know the name of the micro switch. They're really, really, really annoying. And if that's what's broken, I'm gonna have a slightly difficult time replacing it because I don't really have a spare. I'd have to pull it off a board, which I think I could do, because the switch lights, which I do have a bunch of spares, the home and the screen capture button all use the same style of switch, so I could just pull one off of that. Make sure I got all the screws. Okay. No. I really should be using my plastic tool here. You should just kind of, there we go. You do have to be a little careful because you can see there's the flex cables connecting the two halves together, so you don't want to rip them apart. Now the minus button's right here, and there's a membrane that presses onto a piece of the PCB. So let's just get this apart, and we'll go from there and see. We'll just diagnose and go. End of the day, I mean, I've got plenty of Joy-Cons I can give the kid. If I can't figure this one out, I'm personally a very big fan of the gray color. I don't know what his preference would be. I think these look really slick. And there's the battery removed. This is the new style of Joy-Con case. That gimbal does look aftermarket, but I could be wrong. It's very possible someone opened this already. Alright, so we've got some brass in the bottom and top right. It's kind of important to keep the screws in the right spot. Stuck to there, you go. Okay, come on. What is not weighing on you enough? No, I didn't weigh on you enough. There you go. There we go. Okay. So the brass screws are slightly longer than the silver screws. That's why you kind of got to keep track of where everything goes now. Oh, that's right. And then there is a brass screw right here on this little tip. So now that allows you to pull the tray off, and now the shoulder button was all kind of snapped into place here. So we'll just flip up that latch and pull the ribbon out, and that frees up the board. So, well, I think I potentially see the issue, but I don't know. I could be just fooling myself here. Let's get you under the microscope and show you what I'm seeing. Okay, so this could be it, but this right here is the flex cable for the minus button, and you can see it's not really in there very good. Well, folks, that was all I had to do, I think. I can't remember. I think it does go brown side up here on these. These can be kind of a pain in the butt to get in, but sometimes I gotta two-fist them. There we go. That worked just fine. Make sure that latch is secure. So when you're putting these cables in, you want this to be parallel to the port, you know? Like you don't want one side to be higher than you don't want to cant it, right? And see how this is nice and parallel to this port? And down here, all these connectors are parallel to this port. And so when I came in here, this guy was barely hanging on. And I would not be surprised if that was it. Okay, so now we just got to carefully turn you around. I'm doing this off screen here, huh? There we go. Now you guys can see too. Okay, so I'm trying to just kind of organize this cable to go where it should be, which is there's a nice little hole for it. So flex cables do not like screws being put through them, and they don't like being pinched between two pieces of plastic. So you want to make sure that, like right here, it's not getting pinched anywhere. It's not going to go over a screw hole post. Because right here is the post for the back case, so you definitely don't want that ribbon cable to be over that post. So now, we take our handy dandy screwdriver again. I'm going to get a brass screw here. We're going to go into this guy at the end. Get him held into place, and that's good. Now, if we remember, we have brass screws in the bottom and the bottom right and top left. They'll be diagonal from each other. And just like with everything else, don't need to wang too hard on them. As soon as you get good amount of resistance, you're good. Don't script plastic screw posts. You will not have a good time. Okay. So now we've got our two silver screws, and they go on the opposite corners. If that wasn't fairly evident, folks, I don't know. If you're like me, you need your handheld on everything, so. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to hook our battery back together and then call it a day. All right. So these batteries only go in one way. And just kind of position it over the connection here, and then I use a little tweezer. You'll hear it pop into place. And then just press the battery back into its home. The double-sided sticky tape should still be good. Verify all your buttons are clicky and not stuck. We are good to go. And then we just kind of snap these two shell halves back together. And so this is why I say, like, this is a great way to get your feet wet with just pulling things apart and fixing stuff, because excuse me, those Joy-Cons, they do wear down quite quickly if you use them a lot, and they're very reasonably priced for you to buy even on Amazon. They're like $4 a pop on Amazon. You get like a 6-pack for like $22, and it takes, like, I don't know, if you're experienced, it takes about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes from start to finish. Inexperienced, probably about 20. But all you need to do is disconnect and reconnect ribbon cables, unscrew things. I mean, very, very basic skills are needed to replace a gimbal, and it kind of gets you comfortable with taking things apart and learning how ribbon connectors work and how those are supposed to go together. It's inexpensive to work on for the most part. And if you ruin it, you're not losing too much money. You know, it's kind of neat. It's a good way to start. But eventually, you're going to have to with the bigger boy stuff. And if you're going to really want to get into soldering and micro soldering in specific, I would highly suggest learning how to recap a Game Gear. And I'm probably going to do a stream/video on that sometime. It's been done a million times, so it's nothing new. You can go on YouTube and find a bajillion videos on how to recap a Game Gear. You can buy the capacitor kits for it. It's quite a common thing to do. And if you really wanted to get fancy with it, you can upgrade the screen while you're in there as well. And man, that's I did my personal Game Gear, which is actually how I got started in this hobby, or restarted in this hobby, because I've repaired electronics before in the past, but very little game consoles. It turns a Game Gear into like a modern system. It's crazy how gorgeous those LCD screens are. Okay, so if we remember, our minus button was not working. And if we take a look here, see all these are working. Screen capture, working. And then the minus button. Folks, it's just that simple, folks. Now, if you don't know what this is, if you go into your settings and you scroll all the way down to here, which is controller and sensors, and scroll this menu down to you see test input devices. This will let you test, and then click that and test controller buttons. It'll let you test every single button on your controller, and you press the button, you should see it show up. So it's a great way for you to just to verify everything's working. On top of which, the other nice thing about this menu setting is you can come up to calibrate control sticks, and here's where you test for stick drift. And see that how it's a plus. You want the snap from the circle to the plus. You want to make sure it goes all around, and when you let go, it should go right back to the middle and not move. And I don't know why she was saying there was a ton of stick drift in both sticks, but there is absolutely zero. And this one is good. So yeah, folks, that's another fix. Sometimes it's just that simple. Sometimes you don't have to look past. You don't have to get too crazy. Now, I still have the dock to diagnose, which I might actually end up doing now. Yeah. So we still have the dock to diagnose on this one. And I might just pull that apart just to see what's up with it. And figure out what's not working. I've never had to work on a dock before, but they're also they're fairly simplistic. There's not too much to them. Let's do that. Let's just pull this one apart real quick. I don't have too much more time left with you folks, because unfortunately, as per usual, my laptop battery is dying a very slow death, so that kind of limits the amount of time I can stream. I will be upgrading to a much better solution at some point, I think. So I think the only thing I need to do on this, I'm doing this blind, so this is a world's first for me. So these look like I need a bigger tri-tip here. Let's try this guy. I think this should be fine. Wow. Much thicker than I'm used to doing. That's what she said. Much thicker than I'm used to. Kind of figuring this out as we go along. I think the board is just this guy right here. I might have to pull off the whole shell though. I don't know. It's a very tiny PCB from what I remember looking at before. Yeah, I think these are all kind of fused together. Or is it? Yeah, it is for sure. There's a lot of screws here, huh? Ooh, okay, so there's some different size screws. The big plate has a much smaller length. Yeah. So we'll keep them separated for now, just to make my life a little bit easier when I go put this back together, and hopefully I remember this. I'm sure I'll figure it out very quickly though if I put the wrong screw in the wrong spot. I'm not seeing much more than these guys. And I think this internal tray is just going to slide on out. Feels like I might be missing a screw. Nope. Yep. Yeah, as you can see, I mean, that's a pretty tiny PCB. And I have, what holding it? Is it just a ribbon cable that's holding it there? Really? I guess the screws that went around that are... Okay, so let's just pay attention to this real fast, make sure I'm not ruining anything. Okay, so the plastic latch comes from the blue connector to this way. And then I can just take myself a pair of tweezers here. I guess just pull this out. Yeah, this is a much thicker ribbon cable. Okay. Looks to be some plastic clips right here. I might have to just pull back on. Yeah, just a little bit. Okay, and I have a JST connector, which compared to the speaker connectors, I can actually work out with my fingers. Now with these guys right here, you got to make sure that you grab this connector and not this connector on the board, because if you grab it by this connector, you're going to rip this off the board, and now you do have a nice repair to work on. So very, very simple devices. I'm assuming what this guy does is it just powers this LED that's right here. It's probably all that does. Now this ribbon cable right here is most likely hooked up to the USB port right there at the bottom. Speaking of that USB-C port, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good view. Did I not plug my light back in? I did not. All right, let's see what the microscope will tell us here. It's enhanced. Yeah, see, like, the one thing that I don't like that I'm seeing, even though I don't think it's really going to matter, but it could matter. If you notice, this is going to be fun. Okay. You can see the shielding here is kind of like separate it a little bit, and look at that. See how that's wiggling like that? Generally not a very good sign to see that. That usually means that something is not right. Now, what I can do here, we will take my known working dock and then see if that same wiggle exists on it, because as you can see, I don't know what it would be hooked into down there, but okay, so you can see that that split at the top is there. It's actually at the bottom now. We can see that there's still a split in the metal. Oh, you see, see, this is wiggly. That's what I thought. Okay, so that's not a concern. So I'm thinking it's on the board, and I'm gonna have to poke around on the board. Now, we weren't getting video output, but it did look like it was charging. So, and it did work in another dock, so I know it's not on the console. So there's got to be something on this board that communicates or deals with HDMI. I might have a blown EMI filter, maybe. Let's just poke around and see what we can find. Unenhance. I have never really looked at these. I've kind of glanced at a few threads dealing with dock repair. They're not very common because they don't tend to die. So you guys will learn as I go along. I don't think I'm going to get this fixed today, which is fine. I don't need to. It'll be a fun future project as well. But while I'm here, I might as well look at it, right? Oh man, some big part of me wants to put my other music on, but all right. So inductor and IC, probably charging IC, given the surrounding capacitors and MOSFET right there. Now let's turn the light off here and see what I can see here. Okay, so this is definitely a power management IC, M92T17, which looks to be very similar to the M92T36 chip. So I'm seeing some corrosion here, so possible liquid damage maybe? That's got some corrosion around it. I wonder if someone splashed some juice or something on this thing. That's a USB-C port though, not the HDMI, or USB 3.0 port. But you can see that it's not the healthiest looking, is it? Is this technician damage or is this from the factory? Because that's flux, not corrosion. And then there's that shielding is definitely split. I mean, it's not really like that important, and that's legitimate rust. Like legitimate rust. Like, what the hell? I wonder if water did get in this at some point or something. I don't know. Usually when you see rust, you see a lot of other liquid damage in their surrounding components. But the port itself looks fine. That is 100% rust though. I just don't know where that came from. But yeah, that's... It's definitely rust, but the yeah, the USB port looks fine despite the rust. Okay, well, let's just continue looking. That just looks to be like a false positive, so to speak. Just some leftover factory flux, which is not that uncommon. We all use what's called no clean flux, which is supposed to be non-corrosive. So a lot of times it does not get removed from the board. And I mean, that shield is just basically a big ground, so it really doesn't matter that there's a split in it. There's not too much interference. So this is the USB-C port, which takes in the power. Yeah, and you can see like right over here, this is a MOSFET, a couple of MOSFETs going to the PMIC. This probably handles the actual charging amperage. On the switch, it would be the BQ21493, but that is a different chip on the dock. This right here is my HDMI port. Shielded quite heavily. Also got a whole lot of leftover burnt flux. But that's not going to really affect anything. What I was looking for, it might be on the other side, is that usually associated with the HDMI ports are a bunch of EMI filters or chokes. They can tend to go. I don't know what this IC does, but it is definitely appearing to be hooked into the HDMI. I could be wrong. All right, so let's flip you over real quick. All right, so like right there, right here, here. So I'll point them out with my Pokejammy. Let's get a better focus on this board as well. Okay. I wonder if that VLI is the an HDMI chip as well. Okay, so this guy right here and these two guys right here, they are all, and these guys here, they're chokes. They're EMI filters. They basically filter out power from creating a noisy signal, a noisy video signal. And there's a very easy way to test them, which we will get to in a moment. They're very, very common on HDMI lines. They're on the switch and they hook up directly to the P13, which is what handles the docking and switching from handheld to TV mode. So I have a very quick way to test those, make sure they're still good. I'm thinking that this is the HDMI chip. This is an STI 32P0408 CRC. Another M92 chip. T55, so another power management IC. Given the MOSFET configuration back there. It's a non-pop. These all look fine. I'm just basically taking a look around for like maybe any blown components or missing components. I think is a non-pop. Soldering looks fine for factory. No complaints. Yeah, I mean, looks good. So let's go, let's take out the multimeter here and we're gonna do some continuity testing. Okay. So in continuity mode here, my meter will make a beep when I have a connection between the leads, when I form a circuit, right? So on these chokes, what we want is we want a vertical connection. So these two pads right here should beep. But diagonal should not. So I should get a beep here. Should not get a beep here. Now the other thing to check is to make sure we don't have anything side to side. Which if we don't have the diagonal, then we most likely don't have that here. Okay, so we're going to check this filter. That's good. That's good. Nothing there. Nothing there. And we could also like make sure that they're getting through by, see the line, right? The trace comes through and continues up. These are, yeah, these are hooked together, huh? Yeah. So we know that they're making it to the chip, okay. Yeah, this is fine. Alright, so we're going to test the small guy just to the right of that. So just untangling my leads here. And theoretically, like, you could do something like this. Alright. Which is the same as this. Okay. That looks good there. We had a couple more over here, which are directly coming off of this guy and feeding into the other side of the board. So I don't think these are going to be it, even if they are bad. Yeah, so these are fine. Totally fine. We have that. There was a tiny one that I skipped over. I think it's this guy right here. It's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to test because he's so small. Yeah, chokes check out. Not surprisingly, they don't tend to die often. They can go, but it's not a very common failure without seeing something else blow, like a big power surge will usually take one out. Doesn't really leave much. Visibly, the board looks like pretty much pristine. I guess there's these couple of chokes right here, but these are for USB, so I don't know. I wouldn't see why they would play a part, but we'll test them anyway, because, you know, rule out your variables and just double check everything. And, you know, if you could rule it out, then you don't ever really have to worry about it. So we're just going to use this test point and see if, okay, we're good there. We're good there. side to side. Good there. Good there. Side to side. Good. Side to side here. Good, yeah. So those are fine. Now electrolytic is looking okay. The rest of the resistors look fine. I think, unfortunately for me, I think the shielding is it not? Yeah, it is kind of through-hole-ish, maybe? I'm just wondering if there's anything underneath. What a pain in the butt, Nintendo. What a pain in the butt you made this. So I'm wondering, though. See, like how it kind of looks like it pokes through the board? I don't think that's through a hole. I think it's just sitting on top. Yeah, it's not, because we have... Oh, no, see? Look, right there. See, but those are the legs of the actual port. And then we do have that. I don't know. Just try to see if I can pull this stupid shielding off. Just want to go and let's just double check the HDMI port real quick. Make sure you're looking okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. And we'll do the solid test on you. Really shouldn't see any type of wiggle. Yeah. 'Tis fine. So the weird thing is I don't know why. See, those all feed. That's USB filtering. And then the HDMI port's right here. And that connects back through here, which I'm assuming is going to be grabbing signal from here, filtering it out, going through here, and then popping through on the other side of the board here. Oh, that's not right. So they'll come through there, I think. The problem with not having board diagrams. It's not looking too clever, but I want to cause an issue. This little diode right here in this resistor is almost micro bridged. I mean, I'm guessing if this is ground and this is ground, it sure as shit doesn't matter. And they're not bridged, but that's as close as you can get to a frickin' micro bridge without actually being bridged, I think. Yeah, it's better than I thought, but it's still kind of sloppy. Yeah. There's really no way for me to test this board by itself because I'd have to pull out that USB-C from the actual dock, and I don't think I could do that. Research this board and figure out what these ICs do. And the two M92s I know for a fact are just going to be PMICs. That looks fine. I mean, this is all factory soldered, so it should be okay. I'm just looking for any potential gaps on this QFN, and they all look pretty good here. Yeah, that's fine. This SDI chip is the same here. Again, like, very, very close to a holy shit. I mean, I doubt that's it, but holy crap, that is like damn near bridged, but we look to be good. However, while I am here, these are bridged, and this capacitor will be bridged as well. See? What the heck? Something tells me that ain't right. Unless it really is a ground? It's tough doing this like this. These should not. No, those are individual legs. So those. It's like this guy should not be a ground. He's not. Okay. Okay. Good. Wait, is that a ground? No. This is telling me that this resistor and this leg are hooked up together. That's a little confusing. All right, interesting. I don't know why that's like that, but I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible with an internal layer. Like I said, I know very, very little about the dock boards themselves, and I am actually going to have to do some decent amount of research just to verify what I think things are. But I went through all the easy stuff, and that all checked out. So I'm really not going to waste too much time in this, just because, yeah, I have plenty of them, and I don't really have any spares on hand to fix it, even if I did need to replace an IC. So, STI, VLI. I'm pretty sure that VLI is what handles the HDMI stuff, but could real quick. I really shouldn't have to do this with factory stuff. You really just want to do your best to kind of eliminate all the variables you can, so you can focus on the actual problem rather than wondering, oh, maybe I missed a pin somewhere, the factory fucked up, or it just got used so much that a solder joint cracked. All this is theoretically possible, even though no, they're fine. 100% fine. Yeah. Well, nothing hugely evident. I think the only thing I'd really have to do is pull off this metal shielding here. Which is going to be a fun freaking job. But if I'm getting a black signal, that means that I think it's this chip right here. Honestly, I'll have to look at it though. So if I'm getting a black screen, then that means that the screen is actually seeing some sort of HDMI signal. It's seeing the signal, so it knows that there's an HDMI stream coming through. It just can't display it, so that generally points to like a retimer chip going bad or something along those lines. But I don't think that's something that I'm going to be able to fix today, even if I was to correctly diagnose it. So I'm just going to set this one aside for another time. How much of the board could I carve out while keeping it operational? Ooh, not much, to be quite honest. If you're talking about the switch boards, the switch logic boards, they're all pretty well designed in terms of layers here. So if we take a look at this board, can't knock my coffee over. So here's the switch light logic board, right? Here's your CPU, your RAM's right here. This is your hard drive. This is your Wi-Fi chip. This right here is your backlight circuit, and this connector connects to a daughter board on the right hand side. That daughter board, actually I have one right here, looks like this, right? So this is a complete switch light circuit. This right here is a power management IC or buck regulator for your CPU. You know, here's your digitizer. Like, you could not really, like, there's nothing you could really cut too much out of, because first of all, it's a multi-layer board, so obviously you're going to have lots of internal traces going from here to here, all that crap. You might be able to shave off some stuff. No, no. I think you're screwed, man. I don't think you could cut out anything on these boards. It's a little hard to see, but all these traces, and then you've got individual micro switches. Here's your A, X, Y, and B buttons right there, like your shoulder buttons right here. These all have traces coming through the board. CPU sits right in the middle. It gets fed from everywhere. This is one of your main power management ICs. At the top of the board, it has lines going everywhere. I really don't think you could chop too much out now. In later revisions, they did. The switch light hasn't really changed. It's what's called a Mariko revision. On the switchboards, this is a switchboard. It's a little bit of the same scenario, except they did revise the switchboards. Now, you can see right here, this is your eMMC or your hard drive, and this is actually just connected via an FPC connector, right? And underneath it's your Wi-Fi chip. But on later revisions on the OLED model, they completely got rid of this whole section right here. And the hard drive is just like a switch light, right? Like here's your hard drive and the switch light. It's soldered directly to the board, so you no longer have this logic board connection. But even on the switchboards, they're so compact and well designed that there's just no real room to gain. I mean, you might be able to trim down some of the outside edges a little bit, but not even. They're real thin. The margins are real thin, so you're kind of stuck with what you got. It's not like a console like a Wii or an N64 or a GameCube where you could chop off a lot and just leave yourself with like the logic circuits that power the video and the CPU, and then make a portable out of that. Because these are already portable boards, they're pretty much revised to the point of that's it. What you see is what you get. So unfortunately, we're at a stopping point with the dock here. We will just have to set this one aside. I will need to make sure I don't lose the fasteners for it because I don't have replacements. And when I see my friend next, I will give him a working dock and just set this broken one aside for fun. Maybe one day we'll do a comparison stream and I'll take a known working dock and the broken dock and see if I can spot any like meter differences or anything like that. I just don't feel like doing that today. Not really in the mode to diagnose. It's kind of boring. It's kind of tedious. What if we were in zero gravity? Well, if we were in zero gravity, I would imagine that motion controls wouldn't work. I don't know how that would affect the size of the board, though. But yeah, you might be able to shave off 1%, maybe total from all the edges, maybe. But it wouldn't gain you any functionality. What I'm doing now is just kind of some organizational work here, so to speak. we are not going to lose these screws, god dang it. Because Lord knows I'm going to be able to get back to this thing, so... That should keep everything nice and in place for me. For now. Cool. So I can just basically shove this off into my pile of... I'll get to it later. Which is a pretty big freaking pile at this point. Well, we're working on it though. We're working on it. However, that is 2 for 2 today, which is I think a new record for me. Now, granted, they were pretty easy repairs, and I knew they were going to work, so it's kind of cheating. But my friend is set to receive a very, very nice console, and I am very happy for him. Cool. 1% weight reduction. Well, I can't argue against that. Next time you repair that micro SD card. No, it's fit. Felch, you missed it. The only thing wrong with that freaking thing was it somehow became unplugged. It's a very, very tiny FPC connector, which I can actually just show you. So I have a spare board right here, and I have a spare. Thought I had a spare SD card. I do not seem to. Oh, I do actually. So let's take a look real quick. So on the switchboard, so right here, that's where the SD card hooks into, and this is the SD card reader right here, right? And all it is just a little FPC connector, and to hook it up, you just kind of bang. That's it. That's all you do. That's all there is to it. And then when I got it, this guy was like this, just sitting on top, just loose. So literally all I had to do was click it into place, and she worked. That's it. The minus button that was not working on that console was literally almost due to the same thing. Was ribbon cable had become disconnected and just needed to kind of get pushed back into place, and then that started functioning again. So I don't know if at some point somebody opened something up to fix something or do some work, or I don't know, but the ribbon cable doesn't really get dislodged unless it's got some helping hands. So I'm guessing somebody did that. Lord knows. I don't question some things, because when it works and it's easy, sometimes you just take the win, you know? Alright, so I think I have enough time to maybe do a little work on this, and then I gotta call it a day because my battery is probably gonna die. So up next, what we've got is this guy right here, and he was part of that lot of 3. I almost stopped my stream. Lovely. Just check my battery level. Yeah, I'm at 49%. I don't know why it does this. Let me try. I could try. Maybe I might get lucky here. Turn my display. I was complaining that my display was like using up too much juice to charge the battery before, and I've tried this hack, but it didn't really do much for me. Well, we'll turn it all the way down. It's going to make it pretty hard to read your guys' comments, but we'll see if it gives me a little couple extra minutes of battery life. Anyway, let's get back to task at hand. So this switch came to me, and a lot of 3. The other 2 were 100% functional, minus having some Joy-Cons that needed to get replaced because the thumb grips, which are these little white caps right here, thumb grips were destroyed and missing. So the actual Joy-Cons themselves are completely fine, but they're missing the caps, and there's really just no easy way to replace the cap. I've tried. It looks ugly. In fact, if you take a look at this one, you can kind of see, I think someone did the same thing. It's really hard to get them back on properly, and they leave these little bubbles, and it just looks ugly. I hate it. Anyway, I was really disappointed because everything was functional, and I bought stuff to fix. And yeah, it's an easy resale, easy fix to change the Joy-Cons out, but it's boring as shit and not what I wanted. Then I got to this guy, and I plugged him in after verifying everything was working, and I'm greeted with what you're about to see here. That is what we call a BSOD, or blue screen of death. And what blue screens of death on a switch or a switch light generally mean are the solder balls between the CPU and the board, or the RAM chips in the board, have cracked and are not making good contact, or, which is generally the case, more often than not, you're going to see this, your CPU is just completely dead. It got fried somehow, fed too much voltage, just shorted out. Lord frickin' knows, it's dead. And once the CPU dies on a switch or a switch light, the entire unit is now completely dead, because they marry the CPUs to the hard drives, and I cannot go and grab another CPU from another switch or another hard drive from another switch and pull a swaparoo, because the hardware IDs won't match, and then the system won't boot. So once a CPU dies or a hard drive dies, you're kind of screwed. So with the blue screens, now I've got to do this, which is hold the power button down for 10 seconds here, because I'm going to show you what you can do to verify if this is a potentially fixable console. Guess it would help if I actually push the button down. Come on. There we go. Alright, so now we're at black screen. So again, CPU, RAM. Now I know what the issue is, so I'm just to save some time, you put pressure on either and then try to start the console up, right? So you want to put pressure, but not too much pressure, because you don't want to damage the screen or the digitizer. And then to make your life a little easier, if you use a USB cable to turn it on, then you won't have to press the power button. So we're going to, well, this is difficult. It's easy when I'm just looking at it, but I'm trying to get it on camera here. Battery signal. Second switch logo. Home screen. Now watch what happens when I take my finger off the RAM. Didn't glitch out as much this time, but yeah, so it's completely dead now. So what that says to me is I have a cracked solder ball underneath one of the RAM chips. Now, the next step to do is you power the system down again. Okay, so we're back at a black screen here. So it's good, right? Because we know the CPU is working. It's not completely shorted out. I started by pressing on the CPU with no luck, and then I pressed on the RAM. Now there's 2 RAM chips under here. So now the next thing that we got to do is we're going to get back under the microscope here. And so these metal shields here are just basically clipped in. So just kind of work your way around. I haven't really been able to do this without kind of deforming the shield a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. You just don't want to completely destroy it. Just work your way around. We don't. There we go. Normally don't give me that much of a problem, but again, you don't want to completely deform things like I just did there almost. There we go. You can bend everything back into place as best as possible. It's the CPU part that you really don't want to bend off too much because it's got to make good contact with the CPU to transfer heat. And thankfully for me anyway, there we go. I actually do have spares of these if I absolutely need to. They're really thin aluminum, so they do kind of work back into a usable shape. That one came off a little rougher than I would have liked, but alright, so now we're gonna just alright. Alright, so basically we're gonna just wipe this off real quick. Yeah, this has obviously never been opened before. This solder paste looks still pretty wet. Now we could take the only reason I do this is because if I don't, then I'm going to end up with thermal paste all over my freaking fingers. It sucks because it gets everywhere. So just a little bit of IPA, just like with everything else in this hobby. Alcohol makes everything better. Yeah. Okay. Now I think my dumbass, did I activate it? I did. Alright, so let's just go ahead and I'm going to try to see if I can isolate which RAM chip needs to get reflowed, or maybe both of them do. The less work you have to do, the better, though, especially when it comes to reflowing BGAs. So let's start by pressing on this bottom one right here. I think that's it. Okay, so we got a second switch logo. We're in, and then there we go. Much bigger glitch, right? So you can see now that chip is just dead. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna reflow the bottom and hook everything back up and see if that did it. Okay. Now comes the fun part, getting this thing taken apart, huh? Luckily for us, this thing is absolutely pristine. I've got some cleaning I gotta do for it, but for the most part, it is never been opened, looks like. No strip screws. No screws in the wrong place. No liquid damage. These are the consoles I like to work on most because liquid damage stuff is like, oh man, it's a nightmare. You never know if you're going to get it working again, and then even if you do get it working, how long is it going to last? Because corrosion's like cancer; it does tend to come back, and you never know, man, what that corrosion does to components and how long it's going to shorten their lifespan, or if you missed a spot and then eventually it re-corrodes, especially if it seeped under a BGA chip or something. And there are things you can do to alleviate that, but still, once you get liquid damage on a board, it's almost always game over. For the most part. I mean, there's acceptable levels of liquid corrosion, but some of the boards I've seen are just, whoa. Usually forget this guy right here. Not today, Satan. Now these shoulder buttons are well loved, as evidenced by the massive buildup of gamer gunk. Nothing a little IPA can't solve. Alright, so now comes the fun part. We've got to undo the wrist. Okay. That's the fan connector. This is the LCD. This is the digitizer. This is the Joy-Con. And then I pull off my Wi-Fi antennas. And then we can remove the board from the housing. And this thing is quite literally brand freaking new. Alright, now the last thing to do. You know, Joey Does Tech did bring up a good point. I need to go get myself a pair of serrated tweezers. Oh, that came out pretty easily. I thought I'd keep that in mind for next time. Because they do a wonderful job of gripping onto those tiny ass plugs. Now, thinking what I'm going to do. I shouldn't really need to do this because the heat should be as pretty far from these plastic connectors as possible. But because I don't want to generate more work for myself, I'm going to cover them with a couple of thermal pads here. And then some Kapton tape to hold them into place. And this should help them from becoming melted. The only crappy thing is I gotta make sure with the Kapton tape I don't go down too far. Press down on the fuel gauge. If I do that, then I'll squish out the solder balls and create more work for myself, which is the exact opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Let's just do this off camera because it's easier. Okay, so basically what I did is, here's the fuel gauge, and I just made sure to wrap around underneath the CPU. And that should hold all the thermal pad stuff into place just fine. Again, I don't really think it's going to be an issue. It's more just a cover my ass policy type of thing. I have accidentally singed and melted those connectors before, and while it's not a horrible fix to do, A, the ports are expensive, B, I can only get the freaking ports from China, and C, I just don't want to do anything else that I don't have to, because man, the more I touch these things, the less chances they have to come back to life. So now we gotta stick you into a board holder here. Because really, when it comes down to it, I'm not going to need to do much. So let's get back over to camera mode here. There's my work there. And that's the RAM chip that we're working on here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a lot of flux around the edge of this chip, and then I'm going to heat it up, and after a while of me heating up, I'm going to very, very, very gently nudge it with my Pokey Jammy, and as soon as I could kind of start seeing, you'll see it do a little jiggle. It don't fold. Yeah, you're basically just going to have to, you just barely touch the chip, and you'll kind of see it wobble back and forth, and when that happens, you know that you've successfully liquefied all the solder balls underneath the chip. Now, I will preface this with saying, it's not guaranteed this is going to work. There is a very good chance it will, though. So we first start by just, this is a job that I want to use a lot of flux for. And even though I don't have an ultrasonic board, I will do my absolute best here to scrub. And hopefully I'll get all the solder cleaned up, or the flux cleaned up. Boy, I don't like that it didn't. Now we do have to be pretty careful. I don't know how heat sensitive RAM is, but they're definitely chips you don't want to over soak with heat, even though we will be applying a lot of heat to them. Okay, that is a literal buttload. I mean, like, technical term here is buttload of flux. So, all right. Wish me luck, folks. Probably should be using a much bigger tip than I am, but we'll deal with it here, huh? We do want to see that flux start to boil. I'm also kind of looking to see if I can maybe see any surrounding solder pads start to kind of liquefy. And fortunately, it's not so easy. There's a couple of small passes. Okay. Okay. Well, that went better than expected. That went better than expected. Back in, and then we're solid again. I'll let this cool down for a couple of seconds here. Go get some brain juice, I guess. Wow, that went better than expected. Now again, Lord knows if it's actually going to work or not, but I do like to let these boards cool down a lot after applying a lot of heat, just to let things rest and get back into place. And yeah, I could see that flux went everywhere, but that's fine. I really don't care. Yeah, that board got real hot. But just looking at it, things are where they should be. All my plastic connectors are essentially pristine. Actually, no, while I'm waiting on this to cool, I'm meaning to dump my mini trash can out, so to speak. I've actually got to get a legitimately mini trash can for this, but this works for now. Okay. Let's do for cooling down some. I'm just doing some basic inspection here. We'll hit this hard with some alcohol. We'll hit more heat to reliquefy any flux on the board. And then clean it up if it does work. I could see that the liquid indicator got flooded with flux. Hope it didn't actually make it in the USB port. Doesn't seem like it did, but you never know. It's still pretty warm. You know, 800 and some odd degree Fahrenheit heat is it's pretty warm. All right, well, let's see if it's still in the ammeter out here. It's pretty normal right there. Okay, it's a quick and dirty test. Now, because it's blue screen, it wouldn't. I should have shown that before. It shouldn't have given you the normal boot sequence. And remember to go over that. Normal boot sequences. I should see this. Hop up to around 0.4. It might drop down to 0.2, then back up to 0.4 again. It'll reset. The meter will flick off and then back on again very quickly, and that indicates that the board has actually booted, has begun the actual boot process of getting into the software. So let's check it out and see what we see. Does not look like it's booting. I think that is a blue screen. Okay. So pull the battery off real quick. And then we're going to press down on the RAM chip again, plug in. Now see, that's up to 0.3. But I'm not seeing the meter flick on and off again, so I don't think it's booting. I'm not sure here. To me, this is still a blue screen board, but let's go plug it back into a shell. We're just going to use this guy right here because I know he's got a perfectly charged battery. And I like this board because it's really easy to get the LCD in. I think it's still going to blue screen. Didn't really hold out much hope for this working. I can reflow the top RAM as well because that could be it. I mean, even though I'm pressing on the bottom, maybe it was flexing the ball in the top piece enough to make contact. Because the moment I let up off that pressure, the board blue screen. So it's one of the two. I don't need to hook the digitizer up because honestly, it's I'm not gonna be testing things right now, so we'll skip that part for the second. And then we're going to hook in. Remember, I like using these little plastic tools to lift these latches. Okay, that went on fine. That's looking good. All right. I already see thermal paste on my fingers, which I freaking told you. I get that shit everywhere. Okay, the battery is connected. Taking bets, blue screen or not. My guess is blue screen, but we will find out. Blue screen. Now, the real test I want to see if it still works with pressure. I remember when I was pressing on it before, it was working. Nope, it is completely dead now. Yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I'll try pressing on the top again. I might actually make this my very first reball project. Pull the RAM chips off, clean everything up, add fresh solder balls to the bottom of the chips, and then see if maybe that brings it back to life. Nope, blue screen still. Yeah, so that's what I was afraid of. Reflowing these things, it's like I said, it's not a guaranteed fix. So there is a shot. The CPU's still good. I know that much. But I think we're at a point now. Yeah, 100% blue screen. And then we'll do one more test on the CPU. Yeah, that is what I thought. So I made things worse, obviously, by the reflow here. I could try reflowing again, but I don't think that's going to solve anything. But we could try. I think we will do that. We're going to reflow one more time. And then I'll just look at the ammeter, see what the ammeter tells me, and if I still get the same scenario of no boot condition, then we'll try for a RAM reball at one point, and then ultimately most likely write this board off, which does kind of suck because I do know, I mean, when we have it on video, there's video evidence now. It did boot. It was still sort of functional. But no longer, which does kind of suck. I'm just double checking my battery here because this is probably going to be my last hurrah before I have to end stream. Dropping my LCD brightness down to nothing seems to have slowed the battery drain down some. Now again, I really don't think this is going to do anything. Just mainly because of the first result. But we're going to reflow both chips. And then if I still have the same no boot condition, then I'm just going to wrap up stream for the day. I do have some other things I need to take care of, unfortunately. And, you know, I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? That's kind of what I was going for today was, you know, 66%. Hey, that's still pretty good, I think. Considering most of my other streams, I don't get anything fixed. But we're going to start by just really adding a lot of flux in here. Now, there's already going to be some on that board, so I don't really need to use. Probably don't need to use much more than that. Oh, very neat. The frickin' no. Another reason to not like Amtech Flux, though. Looks like the plunger just broke through the. What the heck? No? Yeah, it squeezed through the tube somehow. That sucks. Damn it. I just don't like this flux. I might buy a tube off of Rossmann to see if there's any freaking difference, but I'm going to go back to MG, I think. Alright, let's try this out. Let's put this out of the way so I don't melt it. Okay. Alright, well, I got both to move. Now we'll just begin the long wait. Letting that cool. I didn't bother with taping off like I did last time just because, again, I really don't see this fixing my issue, so to speak. So, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was really worth it, even though I don't want to destroy those connectors because they're free connectors if I ever do need them. The one good thing about this is that there's almost no such thing as waste. You know, it sucks that, you know, you won't be able to get something working, but you can set the board aside, and that way when you go work on something else, you have free parts. Free parts are better than no parts. Now, ooh, damn. Man, that thing cooked. You want to flip it over and see if everything else looks fine. The board did get, it is almost too hot to touch right now, but does not look like anything fell off. I'm trying to determine. It looks like the board is bent. Honestly. And because my dumbass didn't look at it before I started doing this. It's hard to tell, but it definitely looks like there's a bend to it. Now, I could have done that by heating the board up and keeping it in the board holder, and the board holder caused a flex. That's very possible. It could have been somebody else raging and bending the console in their hand, which is not an uncommon thing. Or I should say, maybe it's not rare. It's not very common, but I have seen more than one Switch Lite specifically bent pretty hard. So we're gonna. What a piece of jump wire I just saw. Let's grab that real quick and throw that away. Okay. All right. Well, we'll start doing our basic tests here. I really have like zero faith that this is going to work. But we'll just see if I still can negotiate 15 volts. I can. Normal amp draw on the board. And then the coup de grace here. Let's just plug in a battery. All right, Nintendo Switch. What do we got? She did, Jim. Yeah, 0.29 amp, 0.28. No reset. Nah, she's dead. I might try reballing the RAM on this at one point and, make that my first reball project. I think that would be pretty cool. Again, it's already a dead board, so to speak. So if I fuck it up, I'm really not losing anything. All right, so we're gonna do the good old press down here real quick. Plug in. It's the same thing. 0.28 amp draw. Yeah, it's not powering the RAM. No reset. Nah, she's dead. She's dead. So the reflow unfortunately finished off the job of the failing board. One more time here. Same thing. Yeah, I'm putting a lot of pressure down on it too. So either I muck things up or I merged the ball or did something stupid here, but she is not coming back to life. And I'm most likely going to reball the RAM. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. I'd love to get into it. These are actually probably pretty good chips for me to start learning on. And since it's a dead board anyway, if I fuck it up, I am literally in the same spot that I am in now, which is a non-functional board being used for parts. So it does kind of suck because we did see it actually boot. So again, the CPU is good, the hard drive's good, everything else on the board's good, but the RAM is fucked up. I think if I reball it and maybe pull these chips up and take a look at the pads underneath and see if, I don't know, I think there's a good chance that I might be able to fix this. But reballing is an area I have no experience in, so we will have to do some research and figure out what I need to make that done. I've got a reballing jig, I've got solder balls, and I've got the equipment to do it. I've just never had to do it before, so I think that's a good place for me to start. So that's where we're at. So we got 2 out of 3 working today. We started off with that Switch Lite board that I purchased completely broken. I replaced 2 of the connectors on it. I also replaced the battery connector, so that's 3 connectors are replaced on it. I reflowed M92. I reflowed the USB port. And after all that, I have a bootable board, and that is most likely going to be used in my Hack Switch project. Maybe I might end up using this one in the Hack Switch project if I can get it working again. I don't know. I would like to make some money off this buy, so I might throw the board I fixed this morning in this guy's shell and just ship it off for sale and see if I can get this guy to come back to life, and then save the mod for something else, or put the mod on this if I get this coming back to life. Don't know. Don't have much faith. The second switch I worked on today was completely functional anyway, so I literally just had to plug in the SD card, open up the Joy-Con, plug in the ribbon cable for the Joy-Con to get the minus button working. That was fixed, and then I am still having to do some research on the dock to figure out why the dock won't work. Other than that, I really don't feel like you guys need to watch me change out Joy-Cons, although I might save one for later to show you how to do that on a Switch Lite. It is a very, very simple and easy process, but you know, who knows, might make for something good. But you know, I think at this point I'm just gonna call it a day. I have some stuff I'd like to take care of, and you know, I feel like I had a pretty good stream. We've been live now for 3 hours 45 minutes, so hey, pretty good. Battery is starting to go on me, and I'd like to end stream before that completely goes down to zero. 36%, 38%. So with that being said, anybody who stopped by, left a comment, subscribe, like the channel, hit the notification, all that crap. Thank you. I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you here next weekend when I get back to working on these boards. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and I will see you all then.